For the very latest, I'm pleased to say we can join now from Beirut by the journalist Sophia Amara. Sophia, thanks very much indeed for talking to us today. I understand you were in that neighbourhood at some point today. What can you tell us about what you saw around you?
Well, there was a heavy shooting, heavy firing that turned some areas of Beirut, especially the one near the Ministry of Justice, into war scenes, war zones. Very heavy firing to the point, as you explained, that people, or at least one lady, died in her house because of the shooting and the firing was so heavy. Same in the schools where, for example, not to mention another, the French school that is near the Ministry of Justice, where the students were totally terrorized and were forced to leave their classrooms to hide in corridors because the shelling was, or at least the firing was so important.
Do you understand how this all started today, Sophia? Because we've been hearing reports that there was shooting into the crowd of protesters. Now, Hezbollah are blaming a group called the Lebanese Forces. That's a major Christian party. They're denying, actually, that they were involved at all. What are you hearing?
Well, of course, there are a lot of rumors around about who started it. What we know for sure is that people heavily armed have been shooting here and there. And we saw the picture of a sniper. I didn't see him personally, and nobody knows who he is. The army, the Lebanese army, arrested him. But for many Lebanese, this is a detail. It's like, looking at the finger when people show you the moon. Because what happened is that these demonstrators, most of them are Amal and Hezbollah, who the two Shia parties, and who the Hezbollah is heavily armed, decided yesterday, their leader asked the supporters of the party to gather today against the judge. And we know, because the party is heavily armed, that going to the street is never, totally out of danger. And we don't know yet who started it. But what we do know, and that I have seen, is people from the two Shia party armed in front of the army, and the army just incapable of stopping them, of disarming them, or just pushing them back from the place where they were acting very violently.
Well, as you say, that is because Hezbollah is by far and away the most powerful military group in Lebanon. It does appear that their supporters were fired on today. Do you think Hezbollah will respond militarily to what we've seen?
Well, for many, what's happened today is a military indirect response of Hezbollah against the judge and against justice. And what happened today was expected since yesterday. Since yesterday night, the Lebanese capital was like holding its breath, because they knew, after the speech of a very powerful Hassan Nasrallah saying that the Lebanese would have, I'm resuming the thoughts, but the choice between peace and justice, we expected such clashes. It is not important to know how they started, but we expected Lebanese people and the people, the journalists who are here and know the country, expected clashes just like what happened in 2008. And back then they talked about a coup d'etat when Hezbollah was against a government decision, and he used force. Not him personally, but he has his, little militia that are around him, using force to impose its views in a violent manner.
Just finally, you're talking here about the context of today's protest. That was the explosion at the port last year. Hezbollah calling for the judge that was investigating what happened at the port to step aside. Why would Hezbollah do that, given that we know that the judge has been investigating not just those linked with Hezbollah, but those linked with parties across the Lebanese political spectrum?
Indeed. Hezbollah is not the only party who is acting against that judge and trying to have him step down. Not at all. All the parties, all the politicians are trying to make him or to make him step down and have a third judge, because it would be the third judge, take care of this investigation. The only difference is that Hezbollah is armed. Now, we don't know yet what the judge found out and what the Hezbollah knows that the judge found out. But what we definitely know is the judge asked and issued a warrant against one of the strongest, most powerful Shia politician from Amal, which is, a party that is very close from Hezbollah. We don't know yet, and it's true that Hezbollah has not been until now involved by the judge in this explosion, this deadly blast, but we don't know yet what the judge is, hiding from the public until now.
Sophia Amara for us there in Beirut. Thanks very much indeed for your reporting. Pleased you're safe today. And we're just getting word here that the Lebanese Prime Minister Najib Mikati has been speaking. He, speaking to a Lebanese newspaper today, says he apologises to the Lebanese people for the violence in Beirut, saying he still hopes that elections in Lebanon can be held on time.